Our second story today takes us north from Baltimore to Providence, Rhode Island, where we stay true to our work in speaking with baby boomers giving back to community. Annie DeGroot is a research scientist at the University of Rhode Island, where she's committed her life to providing the disadvantaged free health care, to include life-saving vaccines. She's also a medical doctor, but goes simply by Annie, and her work is not limited by geography. On the streets of Mali in West Africa, Annie DeGroot carries her life-saving message that women be screened for human papillomavirus, or HPV. This patient said Annie is a kind and generous person who always helps the unfortunate. HPV, if left untreated, can cause cervical cancer. Mali is one of the poorest countries in the world, with the U.S. State Department estimating the average worker's salary at just $1,500 a year. The people of Mali need help, and Annie DeGroot is on the job.
We had an experiment where both the patients didn't have an immune response to CEFT.
It's a world away at the University of Rhode Island as a research professor of biotechnology that Annie DeGroot works to combat cervical cancer in Mali.
We're working on bringing the HPV vaccine there. The HPV vaccine is a simple intervention, a shot, 3 shots, that can prevent cervical cancer. Cervical cancer kills women in the prime of their lives. And so if we can get people to get vaccinated, we can actually prevent something that really takes out women who are the cornerstone of their families. They're the ones who are bringing in income, who are raising the children, who are making sure that the next generation is situated so they can do well.
DeGroot's work to educate the women of Mali about HPV is being supported by a $100,000 grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. When you hear how DeGroot's research to accelerate the pace between first developing a vaccine and later actually introducing that vaccine to patients got its start, it's no wonder Microsoft founder Bill Gates would be interested.
We took all that genomic information that can be strings of letters, used Microsoft Word Find to find the patterns that triggered an immune response, and so we could sort through millions and billions of proteins, just computer time. It doesn't really take human time, and find them much faster. So the idea is that you can cut the development of vaccines from 20 years to much shorter.
The idea is working. DeGroot is developing vaccines with the Department of Defense to combat bioterrorism agents in just 130 days. But with a trip to Mali planned for the day after our visit, the focus for DeGroot and her staff during our meeting was on Africa.
In places like West Africa, people have a culture of reading textiles and imagery.
Eliza Squibb brings Annie DeGroot's ideas to life as only an artist can, with color and images that tell a powerful story. On this fabric, Squibb has depicted the HPV virus and related cancer cells sitting dangerously close to the cervix, ovaries, and fallopian tubes. Women in Mali screened for cervical cancer wear this fabric.
And then we also have a proverb in Bambara, which is the local language in Mali.
And what does that mean?
It's Banakube Kafisa ni Banafura Keye, which means it's better to prevent than cure.
The women who then wear these textiles, they become what? In essence, a walking billboard for your educational efforts, don't they?
Yes, they're peer educators.
Hasta acá, hasta acá, hasta acá.
We were able to spend a few minutes with Annie DeGroot on the eve of her trip back to Mali at her free clinic for uninsured immigrants in Providence, Rhode Island. Elso Carranza is one of Annie's patients.
I
appreciate them here. They've helped me a lot. I'm not perfect, but I'm better off than I would have been if the clinic wasn't here. When Elso first met Annie, he suffered with a spinal cord injury that made it impossible for him to raise his arms above his head like this. Without surgery, he would have lost his ability to walk.
We were able to get him free care at the local hospital, and then we appealed to the neurosurgeons to do that very, very expensive surgery, obviously with anesthesia, neurosurgeons, for free.
Annie DeGroot is giving back at home and overseas. Her story began nearly 59 years ago in Winchester, Massachusetts. Annie is one of 5 brothers and sisters born to parents committed to helping the less fortunate. She learned by example. Annie's mother dedicated much of her life to introducing the arts and higher education to inner-city children. Annie's father helped build one of the first hospitals in Kandahar, Afghanistan. It was his love of medicine that influenced Annie's choice to attend the Pritzker School of Medicine at the University of Chicago, where she graduated as a medical doctor in 1983. She's been named one of the best and brightest by Esquire magazine and been awarded for her work to treat pregnant women in Mali who are HIV positive.
HIV-infected mothers can transmit HIV to their babies. So in Africa, we're working on stopping that transmission by simply providing medication to the mothers, something that's not accessible to mothers all over the world who are HIV infected.
This woman is a community health leader in Mali and supporter of the Global Alliance to Immunize Against AIDS, another community organization founded by Annie de Groot. She said, Global Alliance to Immunize Against AIDS has always helped, especially with the construction of the laboratory and provision of treatment to fight against HIV/AIDS. In 2009, Annie de Groot was awarded a $13 million grant from the National Institutes of Health for the partnership she created between the University of Rhode Island and her commercial lab to develop vaccines against emerging infectious diseases. It was Annie's trip to then Zaire in Africa during medical school to help with a measles vaccination campaign that aligned her great intellectual ability with her extra-large heart.
We had 2 twins in the back of the truck, and one of them died on the way to the hospital. And I just remember how grief-struck the mother was. So there's something about doing the campaign that was great and wonderful, but really seeing the impact on an individual person and seeing a child die from measles, that changed my life.